Hello again, this is World News here on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska and here are the latest. Poland has withdrawn consent for the operation of the Russian consulate in Krakow due to the evidence that Moscow was responsible for a massive fire that nearly completely destroyed a Warsaw shopping center in May 2024. Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski said in a post on X this morning.
In connection with the evidence which shows that it was the Russian special services that committed a reprehensible act of sabotage against the shopping center on Mariwilska Street, I have decided to withdraw my consent to the operation of the Russian consulate in Krakow.
Poland continues to deliberately destroy relations with Russia, said the Russian Foreign Ministry on Poland's decision to close Russian consulate in Krakow. And Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski will travel to London on Monday for high-level talks with his French, German, Italian and Spanish counterparts. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas and British Foreign Secretary David Lammy will also be in attendance.
Support for war-torn Ukraine will be high on the agenda at the meeting of foreign ministers of the Big Five countries, as well as the EU and the UK. The officials will also discuss ways to strengthen Euro-Atlantic ties. The gathering on Monday comes amid mounting international pressure for a ceasefire and just peace in Ukraine.
A full and unconditional ceasefire is now on the table, said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. In his nightly address, he urged Russia to respond ahead of a high-stakes meeting set for May 15th in Turkey, where he hopes to meet President Putin face-to-face. This comes in response to Russia's proposal for direct negotiations to be held in Istanbul next week.
Tomorrow, we expect a ceasefire. This proposal is on the table. A full and unconditional ceasefire, long enough to provide the necessary basis for diplomacy, can bring peace much closer. Ukraine has been proposing this for a long time, and our partners have been proposing it. The whole world is talking about it. We expect a clear answer from Russia. Russia will still have to end the war. The killing must end. The Ukrainian forces will be ready to respond in a mirror image to make it fair. We have repeatedly heard from our partners that they're ready to increase sanctions against Russia if Putin refuses to cease fire. We will see. And we in Ukraine have no problem negotiating. We are ready for any format. I will be in Turkey this Thursday, May 15th, and I am waiting for Putin in Turkey. Personally, and I hope that this time Putin will not look for reasons why he cannot do something.
Я буду в цей четвер, 15 травня, в Туреччині.
Overnight, the Russian army conducted a drone strike on Ukraine's eastern regions. One of the drones fell on a civilian freight train in Donetsk region, injuring the driver who had to be taken to hospital with shrapnel wounds. According to a statement released by the Ukrainian Railways on Telegram, the locomotive driver's life is under no threat. The company said its employees would continue working in near frontline areas to keep the train traffic moving wherever it is still possible. As stated by the Ukrainian Air Force, Russian drones were also spotted in Chernihiv, Zaporozhye, Sumy and Poltava regions. Moreover, air raid alerts were issued in Kyiv and Dnipropetrovsk regions due to the threat of kamikaze drones attacks. According to the Ukrainian Air Force, air defense systems detected both kamikaze and reconnaissance drones likely used to guide Russian strikes. Ahead of the meeting in Istanbul, U.S. President Donald Trump said he is starting to doubt whether Ukraine will reach a deal with Russia. Posting on his own social media platform, Trump went on to urge Kyiv to meet Russian officials in Turkey on Thursday.
President Putin of Russia doesn't want to have a ceasefire agreement with Ukraine, but rather wants to meet on Thursday in Turkey to negotiate a possible end to the bloodbath. Ukraine should agree to this immediately. At least they will be able to determine whether or not a deal is possible. And if it is not, European leaders and the US will know where everything stands and can proceed accordingly. I'm starting to doubt that Ukraine will make a deal with Putin, who's too busy celebrating the victory of World War II, which could not have been won, not even close, without the United States of America. Have the meeting now.
According to the United Kingdom Foreign Office, the country will unveil a new sanctions package against Russia on Monday. The announcement comes after Russia rejected a 30-day ceasefire that the UK, France, Germany, Poland and Ukraine demanded during a recent visit to Kyiv.
The statement from the Foreign Office says that the sanctions will only target entities supporting the Russian invasion, but more information will be unveiled during Monday's Weimar Plus Group meeting. While visiting Ukraine, the ministers of the 5 countries in the group agreed that if Russia refuses a full ceasefire, stronger sanctions will be applied on the banking and energy sectors. The new measures will target fossil fuels, oil, and the infamous shadow fleet.
Russian secret services were behind a massive fire that destroyed the biggest Warsaw mall in May of 2024, Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said on Sunday. Poland has been a target of sabotage actions, which officials said have been part of a hybrid war being waged by Russia to destabilize the functioning of countries that support Ukraine, involving tactics like arson and cyber attacks.
This was the scene in the early morning in Warsaw exactly 1 year ago. A fire entirely engulfed the city's largest shopping center, taking 1,400 shops and service outlets with it. Arson was found to be the cause of the fire, and now, after an almost year-long investigation, we finally know who did it. This was a post made by Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk on Sunday.
We now know for sure that the large fire on Marywilska Street was the result of arson by Russian services. The actions were coordinated by a person residing in Russia. Some of the perpetrators are already in custody. The rest have been identified and are being sought. We will get them all.
Justice Minister Adam Bodnar and Interior Minister Tomasz Siemoniak confirmed that the fire was indeed an arson attack ordered by Russian intelligence. Authorities say they've detailed knowledge of how the attack was planned, executed, and documented by those involved. Polish services are cooperating with the Lithuanian side, where some of the perpetrators also carried out sabotage activities.
A day after Albanians went to the polls, the country is now watching closely as results begin to take shape. With EU accession, anti-corruption efforts and regional dynamics on the line, this election could mark a turning point. Let's go live to our correspondent Aisha Abachi in Tirana for the latest on what we know so far. Good morning, Aisha.
Good morning, Anya. The Central Election Office started to publish the results. So we have the preliminary results, and the Socialist Party, which is the incumbent Prime Minister Edi Rama's party, looks like they have taken these elections with 53% of the vote, and they won these elections. We can now say that they have won the elections with a promise to the citizens of Albania EU accession by 2030. It is important to note that Albania is one of the most pro-European countries in the Western Balkans, and Albanians themselves, 4 out of 5 Albanians, experts say, have this pro-European dream. So this worked very well in favor of Edi Rama's campaign. And the second party, the second biggest party that follows, is the Democratic Party, who is leading the coalition of Alliance of Magnificent Albania, and they got 34% of the vote. When Edi Rama, so the Socialist Party, was campaigning on the promise of EU accession, Sali Berisha, who is the leader of the Democratic Party, was campaigning on the promise of closer ties with the United States, and they went as far as to make their slogan, "Make Albania Great Again." I think you recall this slogan, MAGA, so Make America Great Again, and it doesn't come out of nowhere, because Sali Berisha, the leader of the Democratic Party, was actually working very closely with one of Trump's top campaign advisors for his election campaign in 2024, Krisla Civitas. So when Edi Rama was promising EU accession, Sali Berisha was promising closer ties with the United States, and this is important to note because Sali Berisha is currently a persona non grata in the US and the UK. But we can see that the country's EU accession path, so track to the EU, will be continuing smoothly now with the winning of the Socialist Party. But this will all depend on whether the country will be able to make the appropriate reforms, mainly in terms of governance and anti-corruption, like the EU chief diplomat Kaja Kallas is pushing the country to do so. So these are the latest news, and when we have the final results, when the counting will end, we will come back to you and give you the latest results. Back to you, Anya.
Aisha Abachi from Tirana. Thank you so much, Aisha. Dozens of boxes containing Nazi documents have been found in Argentina during the relocation of the country's Supreme Court archives. Now, the boxes were sent from the German embassy in Japan during World War II for unknown reasons, potentially putting into doubt Argentina's claims of neutrality during the war.
The found boxes contain postcards, photographs and propaganda material from the Nazi regime, as well as thousands of notebooks belonging to the Nazi party. While Argentina was neutral during the war, it was led by fascist strongmen during the second half of the conflict, who held sympathies for Nazi Germany. The found records, however, were stored in Argentina in 1941, 2 years before the military seized control of the country. It was also well before the so-called Red Lines were used by Nazis to flee Germany to the South American country, where they lived under hidden identities and were protected by Argentinian authorities under Juan Perón. The documents are now under investigation.
Pope Leo XIV will meet with more than 6,000 journalists and members of the media in the Vatican auditorium this Monday as he begins his public duties as head of the Roman Catholic Church. The Pope's inaugural media address will take place just days after his election. It will mark the first formal interaction between the new pontiff and members of the global media. It will also be a first opportunity to understand the guidelines of his vision and how he intends to dialogue with the world. Meetings between new popes and journalists have become a common practice. Both Pope Francis and Pope Benedict XVI met with media days after they were chosen to lead the Catholic Church. And now we take you to Warsaw, where every summer Łazienki Park becomes a prestigious stage for the world's most outstanding piano players. On Sunday, despite cloudy weather, crowds flocked to the park for the opening of the Chopin season.
A staple of summer in Warsaw.
We're opening the 66th season of Chopin concerts in Łazienki Park.
From May until September, people gather here every Sunday to enjoy the world's top pianists performing Chopin in Warsaw's most picturesque park, under an impressive statue of the famous composer. On opening Sunday, Bulgarian pianist Ludmil Angelov gave a melancholic performance of Chopin's greatest hits.
Having these concerts really gives some atmosphere, some vibe to the Warsaw.
The music was better when the sun was warm, but it's been a wonderful experience. A beautiful park.
Splendid, excellent film.
For some pianists, it will be a chance to practice ahead of this year's International Chopin Piano Competition. Others are already laureates, and it's extremely rare to catch their live performances for free.
And on this note, we conclude this edition of World News, but commentaries and news continue of TVP World, so please stay tuned.